it's been a really big shock, but I like it because I feel like it's finally teaching me that I can think for myself and I don't have to follow the status quo, what everyone else is saying. I can figure out stuff on my own.
Brooke, how did you find Carnivore?
So the first time I found Carnivore, I didn't actually stick to it. I had found Kelly Hogan's blog, and I was so amazed by her transformation. I had been overweight since I was a very young child, so I found that, and I tried it for a couple of days. Although a lot of my diet before that was a lot of processed food, especially in my childhood. So I didn't know how to cook meat. I basically browned a pound of ground beef and I cracked some eggs in it. And it was the saddest meal I'd ever had. It was all overcooked. It was disgusting. I didn't use any fat. And so I was like, well, this sucks. So I'm not doing this anymore. Um, and then a couple years later, it was after I had my first son. I was experiencing, I guess you could call it postpartum depression. I've always kind of had a sadness throughout my entire life that I just thought was normal. And I didn't want to be a sad mom. I didn't want my son to look back and think that his mom was sad or that think that he made me sad, whatever the case may be. So I actually saw the Jordan Peterson interview with Joe Rogan, and I'd asked my sister about it because she had been informed about seed oils and she was doing Weston A. Price at the time. Like she knew a lot about nutrition and had been trying to tell me for years. And I was just, oh, I'll just listen to the doctor. I had counted calories. I actually looked back. I used chronometer, however you say it, to track, and I would weigh everything. So I would record everything I ate in grams. And I was eating very few calories. I was really wanting to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight because I had successfully lost weight from childhood before my first son, and it was, I guess, triggering is a good way to word it. That I was basically the size I was in childhood. I was very large after I had given birth, so I wanted to lose weight as quickly as possible. So I was really severely restricting, and I was not losing any weight. Um, I was recording everything, and I was able to lose weight the first time by counting calories, and this time it did not work. And my breast milk supply was actually dropping, so I decided that I needed to try something else. So the carnivore kind of was a twofold for the depression and for um, weight loss, and it worked very well for both.
Just when you go back to the calorie counting, like what level were your calories at when you were restricting and you found that it wasn't working anymore?
So I actually pulled up my chronometer, and let's get back here. So like 1800, um, sorry, I skipped weekends. 1822.7, 1526.3, 1623.7, 1641.6, 1231.3. It was very restrictive. It was a lot less than you're supposed to account for like extra 500 calories a day or whatever when you're breastfeeding. It was less than that, and it was a very high carb. Um, I didn't really incorporate any fats. I saw that I was using a canola oil there. So I did not have I ate a lot of sour cream though. That was my treat food, was sour cream. So I wasn't really eating very much animal foods. It was a lot of, I like to eat a lot. So it was a lot of, I would volume eat. So I would do really big salads and a lot of carbs. And I did whole foods, plant based for a while. So like I made like a lentil chili that I had like every day. I must have made a big pot of it. But yeah, so it was a lot of that. But I was hungry all the time. Even when I had lost weight the first time, I was restricting my calories as well. And I would do mostly plant based. And I was very hungry even then. I just kept, I kept going even though.
Yeah. And so this time round on Carnivore, I mean, how long has it been for you?
So, I looked back, I thought it was August 8th I started, but it was actually August 30th of 2021. Um, and so from then to January of 2022, um, I had successfully reached the smallest weight that I ever had been as an adult. Um, and then I took a break from my sister's wedding. She had had a wedding. And then I kind of got back on more to ketovore. And then I had actually got pregnant in September, or August of 2022. Um, and so I I was a little bit scared. I wasn't quite sure about remaining completely carnivore throughout pregnancy, so I did incorporate carbs. Um, but after I had my second son in April, a week after that, I went carnivore, and the next time around, I'll just remain carnivore the whole time. I don't see any ill effects of with my breast milk supply, or I mean, I see a ton of positive effects in my mood. This postpartum period was significantly better than it was with my first son. I had to have C-sections with both, and I didn't have any sort of postpartum depression. I healed really well. Um, the weight slowly coming off, but that's to be expected. I'm not going to rush it. But I think everything is just going a lot better this time around, being carnivore earlier. Because my son was, if it was August, I guess it was 3 months, 4 months postpartum with my first son that I started carnivore the first time. But the 1 week was it was kind of like a decompression. It was good. And I had to have hospital food for immediately after. So going carnivore then would have been difficult. But
So, just for people that are watching that haven't experienced it, could you kind of paint a picture of what that postpartum depression feels like? As far as, is it? I guess it's probably just more than what people would associate depression as being. I think maybe it's a little deeper than that.
yeah, so I've kind of always, like I said, I I just thought it was normal to like always have like a low grade of wanting to be dead, um, which is gone now. But after I had my first son, I remember my mother-in-law and her husband came over, and I was having a good day. There was nothing wrong, and I was just crying the entire time. I could not stop, and it was just feeling of despair all the time. And it wasn't because of my son or anything like that. It was, I mean, it's hard being a new parent. Like everyone tells you, of course, that it's going to be hard, but you don't realize how hard it is until you're kind of in it. Um, but I mean, it it's kind of difficult to explain, but it's anyone who has regular depression would kind of know how it feels, except for like I wasn't able to keep it in. Like I was just crying all the time.
More you're losing control externally as well as feeling that loss internally.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not someone who like is very expressive with my emotions like in my everyday
Hmm.
life, like in my house I'll be fine. That's no big deal, but um like I generally would never let anyone know that I wasn't doing okay, and it was
Mm.
just impossible to contain at that point. Um
Mm.
but so that yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, so the postpartum depression wasn't there the second time.
No.
Um, you're losing weight following that pregnancy, much better this time.
Yeah.
Um, what other things have improved for you?
So the big one is my mental health. My mood's kind of always been up and down. My mom's is like that too. Um, and so I get very frustrated very easily, and I lose patience easily, and something I'm trying to work on. But to some extent, it must have been some sort of inflammation in my body because since being carnivore, I don't have nights where I cry myself to sleep. I don't get as frustrated with my kids. Like, it's really night and day differences, and just not feeling foggy all the time um, mentally is it's a big change. Um, Ever since I can remember, I was in elementary school and I just had, I don't know, a fog of just gloominess to me. So, um, that's the biggest thing. The body recomposition is very interesting as well. Like I had said, I had lost weight after being previously obese in childhood, and I had lost weight by counting calories. And I feel like my body didn't look as, I didn't feel as accomplished when I lost the weight as I did after carnivore because I felt like my body looked a lot better. My stomach was flatter. My arms have always been a trouble area. I just have fat arms, but they just they looked better. My hair looks better. Like my skin looks really good. I feel like I was someone who really wanted to, I really trusted that the people who were telling me to do things were telling me what to do correctly. So, like, throughout my entire life, I've just listened and whatever the doctors say, whatever authority figures at all say, I just do it. Um, and it's been a really big shock, but I like it because I feel like it's finally teaching me that I can think for myself and I don't have to follow the status quo, what everyone else is saying. I can figure out stuff on my own because a lot of what, especially, it's actually kind of nice. The carnivore community in the past year and a half has gotten really fun. There's been a lot of people who've gotten on it and seen a lot of cool stuff go on. So we have more people backing us up. I feel like for a while it was kind of still rogue. You had like people who would try it for a week and do YouTube videos about here's what happened on my carnivore diet. Well, nothing's going to happen on in a week. Like you really get the really good results after staying on it long term. And of course, you get a lot of people who go really hard, really fast at first, and they crash and burn. So it's kind of fun to see all the people who are coming up and doing it now and really hearing all of their stories and seeing the cool stuff that happens. It's always like you always hear from someone new, like something else you didn't even know. I didn't even know this was a condition. I didn't even know you could cure it. It's so cool that people are having these really good results on this really weird, restrictive, crazy diet, but it's really fun because I get to have bacon omelets and all this stuff. So I don't know. It's really been a trip, like re-questioning my entire existence.
But the bacon omelets definitely help, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah. So speaking of that, how is the eating going? What does a normal day look like for you?
So sometimes I'm not hungry for breakfast. So I've never actually been on carnivore when I haven't been breastfeeding or pregnant. I was still breastfeeding my first son when I got pregnant with my second son. Um, and I'm currently breastfeeding. So usually before I got pregnant at all, would eat like one meal a day. I wouldn't eat breakfast. Um, and then I would snack, maybe have like fruit here. I would eat a lot of fruit before I went carnivore. But otherwise, like my meal of the day, um, I would just kind of eat it whenever. So now I eat 2 to 3 meals a day, depending on the day. I wake up and I have coffee every morning with cream, and then I have eggs pretty much every day. This morning I had sausage too, um, but then for my lunch, so I stay home with my kids. That's been a relatively recent change though. So, and my husband actually works from home. So We have lunch together every day with our kids. Today I had 3 burger patties and a fried egg with ricotta cheese on it. But a lot of times it'll just be like leftovers, whatever. And then so for dinner, I do stray from carnivore for all my dinners pretty much, just because my husband's not on board with the no vegetables thing. So I usually do, we do keto dinners. Um, and like last night we did carnivore meatloaf. And then I had vegetables for them and I just had the meatloaf. So otherwise, sometimes we'll do like Philly cheesesteak casserole. So there's like a pepper in it. I'll eat the pepper. I won't eat around it. It's fine. But um, but for the most part, I'll eat. I eat a lot of dairy. I drink milk, um, and then I do yogurt and all that stuff. So I I would probably actually say that most of my day, if I was just eating myself and I didn't have to worry about my husband and my kids, would be probably eggs and dairy, just because it's a lot of work to eat meat for myself. But we're in the Midwest, so we have lots of local beef around. So like right now, we have uh, steaks thawing on the counter for dinner, and we'll get quarter cow, half cow, um, whatever they have available. Um, just as we need it. And then my husband, so it was just recently deer season here as well. So my husband did get a deer. So we'll have venison. We'll have venison steaks, and obviously, like the good parts, we'll make into good dinners, steaks, things like that. But the rest we kind of grind, and we'll do sausage. And my husband just went goose hunting as well in North Dakota. So he got lots of gooses, which I don't like. I don't I don't like any sort of birds really, but if they mix it with pork, I'll eat it as sausage. So that's kind of the plan right now.
Interesting. I've never had goose. What does goose taste like?
So I've only had it in like stews before. So my husband kind of ruined it for me. Um, he mixed it with duck, and I guess there's different types of ducks, and they taste different. I was pregnant and I got, it's called a diver duck. I don't know. It tasted like a swamp. It was the most disgusting thing I'd ever tasted. So I told him, I am not eating any more of the stuff you hunt. Like, I'll have venison, but that's it. I'm not eating any more of your birds. I don't like them. And I don't really eat much chicken anymore. Um, After going carnivore, it's just too lean, not satisfying. So um, I generally stay away from birds, but I'm sure the goose itself is fine. It was just that one bite of duck that was really bad.
And how have your other family, like your parents and any siblings, reacted to you eating this way?
So, my sister had kind of, she's like super happy because I was arguing. I'm like, oh, of course, olive oil is super healthy for you. Like, you should eat on everything. Like, you gotta have vegetables. I was just always that person because that's all I'd always been told. So she was super happy to have me on board. She had done carnivore just briefly. She didn't really like it. She feels like she does better with lots of leafy greens and stuff like that. But my parents thought I was crazy until it was kind of funny because I had been sending my mom carnivore stuff for a long time. And it was just like a video that I didn't think was even all that convincing. It was just like, oh, I don't know. It was just a random one off video I found on YouTube. And I was like, oh, you should check this out. And basically, it was just a compilation of just other people's stories. And I'd been sending her like actual videos of doctors talking about it, of people's success stories, nothing. But the compilation is really what got her like, oh, I'm in. So she's actually been carnivore. It's been several months now, and she's doing really well. So, and my dad is on board kind of now. My dad, he's been a construction worker his entire life, and he's had no problem at all maintaining his weight. And he drinks pop, and he eats cookies, and that's just how he's always been. Sorry, I don't
Oh
know what
no.
that is in my background. Must be
No,
something outside.
no worries. So how do you see this going forward? Is this the way for you forever, or can you see yourself changing?
So I think that it's going to have to be forever. I really like the mental health benefits of it. Uh, I think that that's probably the next steps in moving forward is probably the best if I at least stay very low carb. Um, I wouldn't mind adding in certain things. Well, and so I'll eat things. We found that we have wild grapes on our property this summer, so I had some of those. But I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where like, oh, new fruit's different from old fruit, and they show like these old fruits that look disgusting with these gigantic seeds. That's that's how they were. It was like all seed and like a little bit of fruit on it. So, um, but so I'll have some of those. I I don't know. I think adding in at some point fruits would be good, but I feel like that's a really slippery slope because, like I said, when I would snack, um, before I was carnivore, I would eat fruit. And it would be a lot of it. I would have like 4 apples as a snack. So, um, I think that at least low carb, but I mean, I guess who really knows? But I really like the benefits I'm having at this point. And my husband, so even since he doesn't even eat very low carb, it's just what I make is low carb by nature, but he's noticed effects just from that. He's noticed that his knees have gotten a lot better. He had knee pain that he says is a lot better if we're on track. Um, and then he's lost weight too because it's easier for men to lose weight, in my opinion. He like stops eating candy and he drops 20 pounds for whatever reason.
So, I mean, has he noticed the changes in you, especially the mood changes? Like, what does
Oh
he
yeah.
say about that?
No, yeah, he he's on board. I thought he wasn't for a long time because he didn't say anything about it. But when I asked him, I was like, "Do you even notice a difference?" He says yes. There, because like I said, there'd be days where I'd just be crying for no reason, and it's just that's just how I existed. So he notices the difference. But I think that so he's not super quick to be like, "Oh, this is way better. Keep doing this," because he doesn't want me to feel like, "Oh, you're way more enjoyable to be around. Like, don't change."
Yeah, I guess I guess after you're married, both of you end up going, "Oh, I've got to tread carefully about what I say."
Yeah.
I understand. Um, do any friends talk to you about it and say, "What are you doing?"
Not really. Most of the time, so it's kind of funny because I'm pretty immersed in the carnivore sphere. So whenever I talk about people, there's some people who are still like, "Oh, really?" Like they just have no idea about it. And I'm like, "Oh, back to square one. Got it." So a lot of times it's just curiosity. So it's not as much like, "Oh, that's crazy." It's, "Oh, really?" Like they just didn't know it was possible type thing. Um, but I mean, for the most part, everyone it you hear it all the time, but everyone when they see you eating just meat, they'll say something to you. But if they see your plate piled full of junk, they're just, "Oh, that's normal. It's fine. No big deal." Um, for Thanksgiving, the first year, so 2021, um, there was quite a bit of pressure from my family to, "Oh, it's just one day. Oh, it's just one day." And I'm like, "Ah, I'm gonna feel terrible if I eat this stuff. Like, I it's fine. I'm not gonna throw away my progress for some mashed potatoes." And I felt so good after. Like I just ate turkey. Like turkey's dry and I don't like it, but it's fine. I loaded up on it, put some butter. It was great, and I felt good afterwards. I just when I feel like, especially with my mom going carnivore now, some of it was that video I sent apparently, but a lot of it was seeing that I'm doing really well on it. And other members of my family, um, my uncle decided he was going to do that. He had horrific knee pain and he was very, very overweight. He's like, oh, I get to have a steak every single night. This is great. So he's doing really well on it too. He is no longer in the diabetic range. So people are, it's taken a long time, but people are kind of coming around to it because they're seeing success that I've had on it.
It's really nice that, you know, it's just like the way you describe it, it feels a little bit just like dominoes.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
just eventually everyone's going, oh yeah, I'm gonna give that a try.
Yeah.
And you know, the reward of being able to eat steak every day is a good one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a fancy dinner that you only get for special treats, but I mean, if you think about it, like this particular uncle was going out to dinner like every single night, even like Taco Bell. Last time I went to McDonald's, like years ago, it was like $30 for all of us to eat. So it's not like that was inexpensive. I could have got a pretty nice steak for that. So
Sorry, how old are your kids now? They're both
I have a,
still under 5, right?
yep, I have a 2-year-old and I have a 6-month-old.
Okay. So going forward, how do you think you'll feel when you see them once they start going to school and stuff like that? And you know, with the kind of treats and whatever, is that just, you know, do you see that as just something that they have to go a phase they need to go through, or will you be trying to restrict that?
Um, what I'd like to do, and I mean, I don't know how to really go about it. Like I said, I was in childhood, I was obese. So I obviously was not given the right tools from my parents. No offense to them, nothing against them. They were doing the best with what they knew how to do as well. So I'm hopefully gonna go for just educating. I think that what would be ideal is if I was able to um, explain the difference in why you feel better when you eat certain things versus others. Um, I mean, even now at this point, you can definitely tell when I've fed my 2-year-old, say, junk food. If we go somewhere, it's not a big deal if he gets whatever everyone else is eating. Um, but you can definitely tell a difference when he's eaten those foods versus what we feed him at home. So I think that just drawing attention to that might be the way to do it. And just, hey, you didn't feel good last time you ate a donut. Why don't we have a string cheese instead? I don't know how well that'll work. I remember being a kid and wanting, like, oh, I don't care. It's fine. No big deal. I'm gonna feel fine after this, you know.
I think the education route is the good way. Like, an awesome approach. Like, it's almost like it's education, but it's also you're leading by example, right? And
Hmm.
no matter what happens, leading by example is the important thing, because one of the way kids learn most is not by what you say, not by what you tell them, it's by watching. It's like,
Yeah.
hang on, what's she doing? That's why it's always doesn't ring very true when you know, parents said the kids don't eat junk food, and the kids see mum or dad stuffing their face with junk food. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
if you're modeling the correct behavior, they might not do it right now, but that's going in so that it can come back out at the right time when it's needed. You know.
Oh, definitely. And
Mm.
it helps that we're exposing our kids to lots of foods that, I
Mm.
mean, they're my 2-year-old can eat most of a ribeye and he can eat a New York strip. Like he's he's getting the same foods that we are, which I think it would drive me nuts to have to cook chicken nuggets and mac and cheese every night because he didn't like the food we were eating, or we have to give him kid food, or whatever the case may be. So it's really easy. We just feed him whatever we're eating, and he eats it.
That's awesome. And the extra awesome thing about that is the kid food is kind of not really food, right?
Yeah.
It's a concoction of chemicals that have been put together to taste nice to kids.
Yeah, yeah, and well, it's so funny after, that's all I used to eat when I was younger, because that's my parents we were very, very busy, and that's what was available, and that's what was easy, that's what we did. So, but after you start eating real food and then you go back to it, it tastes terrible. Like, your palate's just not a accustomed to it whatsoever anymore, and it tastes disgusting. I'll never go back to,
Yeah,
like, eating that kind of stuff. No matter how bad my diet gets moving forward, I will never ever go back to that because obviously tastes bad, and then I you feel so terrible after it too.
right. Yeah. So, Brooke, do you have an Instagram or a YouTube or anything where people can reach out to you?
So, my sister and I are starting, the Overfed podcast, and basically we're just talking to people who have, experienced childhood overweight and obesity, and we're just talking about our experiences. Um, but so I don't have any personal social media, but I did start an Instagram, which was promptly kicked off for whatever reason. And I appealed it, and they're like, "Oh, never mind, you can go on it." So I don't know. I didn't post anything or do anything with it, but apparently I violated a guideline. So um, it's oh gosh, I don't even know my handle. It's the Overfed Podcast. And then we're on Spotify, Overfed Podcast. And then if you want to reach out to me directly, the email is overfedpod@proton.me. Um, but yeah, we're excited to start that out. We're both, she stays home part time with her daughter. So we're both trying to figure out when's a good time to get that off the ground. As of right now, our only episode is just the two of us, but we're looking to get on some guests. So if anyone wants to come on, hit me up. It's so interesting talking to people who were obese in childhood as well, just because it's so funny. You always feel like at that age that you're the only one who's feeling like this because you're not seeing it. But so many similar situations and so many feelings that I've talked to people. And I don't know, I think it's nice to get those feelings out to be like, oh, okay, I'm not weird. I wasn't weird at the time for feeling like that. And the ultimate goal is, of course, that people who currently have kids who are obese can help them out because um, it would have set me up for a lot less heartache as an adult if I were to gotten my weight taken care of when it was an issue in adolescence. It was really an uphill battle and is going to be a struggle for the rest of my life. So,
So the Overfed podcast.
mhm. It's on
Um,
Spotify only right
thank
now because I need to figure out how to do all that.
No worries. So I'll link to that, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey, Brooke. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.